हेलो एवरीवन, वेलकम बैक टू द चैनल कॉन्सेप्ट्स ऑफ कॉमर्स। आज के वीडियो में हम बात करने वाले हैं डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ कॉस्ट इन कॉस्ट अकाउंटिंग। फॉर एनी बिजनेस इट इज वेरी इंपेरेटिव टू हैव क्लियर अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ द कॉस्ट ऑफ द बिजनेस। सो फॉर दिस पर्पस वी कैन क्लासिफाई कॉस्ट in various heads under cost accounting. First of all, according to variability. So according to variability, we can have three types of cost under cost accounting. That is fixed cost, variable cost and semi-variable cost. Fixed cost वो होता है जो output change होने के साथ change नहीं होता है. For example, सैलरीज, रेंट, इंश्योरेंस एटसेट्रा। सो अगर आपका आउटपुट कम या ज्यादा होता है, आप एम्प्लॉयज की सैलरी कम या ज्यादा नहीं कर सकते। सिमिलरली, अगर आप अपनी फैक्ट्री यूनिट में ज्यादा प्रोडक्शन करते हैं या कम प्रोडक्शन करते हैं, आप रेंट को इंक्रीज या डिक्रीज नहीं कर सकते because that is a fixed amount that you have to pay. Now, if we talk about total fixed cost curve, it will be a straight line horizontal to x-axis. That means अगर आपका आउटपुट चेंज भी हो रहा है बट आपका कॉस्ट चेंज नहीं हो रहा है। सेकेंड इज वेरिएबल कॉस्ट। वेरिएबल कॉस्ट वो होता है जो आपका आउटपुट चेंज होने के साथ ही चेंज हो जाता है। अगर आप आउटपुट बढ़ाते हैं तो आपका वेरिएबल कॉस्ट भी बढ़ जाएगा, अगर आप आउटपुट कम करते हैं तो आपका वेरिएबल कॉस्ट कम हो जाएगा। Examples of the same can be raw material cost, packaging cost, commission paid, etc. Now, if we talk about curve of variable cost, it will be a straight line moving upwards to the right. Now coming to semi-variable cost. Semi-variable cost वो होता है जिसका कुछ पार्ट सेम रहता है even though the output changes and some of its part changes with change in output. So we can say semi-variable cost का कुछ part fixed होता है, कुछ part variable होता है. That is why it is known as semi-variable cost. Examples of the same can be electricity, telephone usage, etc. Same can be plotted in a curve also. When we make a curve for semi-variable cost, it will have a straight line horizontal to x-axis as its some part is fixed in nature. And above that, it will have a straight line moving upwards to the right, which will represent variable nature of the semi-variable cost. Let's have a look at all the cost curves for better understanding. Next classification can be according to time. According to time, we can classify cost as प्रीडिटरमिन्ड कॉस्ट और हिस्टोरिकल कॉस्ट। सो प्रीडिटरमिन्ड कॉस्ट वो होती है जो काम करने से पहले हम गेस वर्क पर बेस्ड होकर या फिर पास्ट एक्सपीरियंस पर बेस्ड होकर आगे आने वाले टाइम के लिए कैलकुलेट करते हैं या फिर एसेस करते हैं। Whereas historical cost means that is written when the production process is over. So if we talk about accuracy will be more in case of historical cost because वो cost तब रिकॉर्ड की जाती है जब प्रोडक्शन प्रोसेस कंप्लीट हो चुका है। बट predetermined cost is calculated or is recorded before the production process starts. Another classification can be according to controllability. So under controllability, some cost can be controllable, whereas other costs can be uncontrollable. Controllable cost means cost जिसे हम कंट्रोल कर सकते हैं। फॉर एग्जाम्पल, आपका डायरेक्ट मटीरियल, डायरेक्ट लेबर। अगर आप बल्क परचेजिंग करते हैं, यू कैन हैव अ कंट्रोल इन द कॉस्ट ऑफ रॉ मटीरियल्स बिकॉज देन यू विल बी एबल टू अवेल डिस्काउंट्स ऑन द प्रोडक्ट मटीरियल परचेज्ड। Whereas कुछ कॉस्ट ऐसे होते हैं जिन्हें आप कंट्रोल नहीं कर सकते, फॉर एग्जाम्पल टैक्सेस, रेंट, etc. Another classification can be according to elements. So according to elements, the cost can be classified as material cost, labor cost, and expense cost. All of these elements can be further divided into direct and indirect. That means for material, we can have direct material and indirect material. For labor, we can have direct labor and indirect labor. And for the expenses also, we can have direct expenses as well as indirect expenses. Now, what is the difference between direct and indirect term? That we will be taking more in detail in the next classification of cost. One more classification of cost can be according to traceability. So according to traceability, the cost can be divided as direct cost and indirect cost, like we just discussed in the previous classification as well. Now, what is the difference between direct and indirect? Whether it is material, labor, or expense. So the cost that clearly attributed to one cost center or product is known as direct cost. For example, you are making a table of wood. So wood can be a direct material for that particular table, whereas Fevicol used in that table will be a part of indirect cost, because Fevicol is not only used in the table, but it will be used in other products in the factory as well. So the material that you can directly associate with a given product is direct material for that particular product. The material that has a common cost, that means that is commonly used for all the goods being produced in the factory, will be an example of indirect material. Similarly, if we talk about labor, so the labor who is only manufacturing the table will be direct labor for the table, whereas the cost of supervisor of the factory or the cost of the guard of the factory, so that will be an example of indirect labor for the table, because the guard is not only guarding the table in the factory. The supervisor is not only supervising the work of the table, it is for the whole factory. Now coming to direct and indirect expense. Expense that is made only for a particular material or product is known as direct expense. For example, if you are getting wood to the factory, in this case of table, so that means carriage paid on that wood will be a direct expense for that particular table. But whereas if you are making expenditure for, let's say, electricity, so electricity is not only being consumed for manufacturing of the table, but whereas it is a common cost for all the things being produced in the factory. Last classification for today, classification according to decision making process. So under that, first is opportunity cost. Opportunity cost is simply the next best alternative forgone or sacrificed because you are choosing another option. For example, you had an option to choose from A and B. If you are choosing A, that means you are sacrificing B. So the option that you are sacrificing, you are not taking, is known as opportunity cost. Second is sunk cost. Sunk cost means the expenditure that you have already done and it cannot be recovered. For example, आपने plant and machinery purchase किया, that money is already sunk, is already invested. You cannot get that money back. Same goes with research and development expenditure or advertisement expenditure done by the company. Third is imputed or hypothetical cost. That means where you are not making any cash outlay. आप पैसा नहीं देते हैं, but still you are using that as an expense for the business organization. The examples can be if you are using your own building for your factory. So that means you're not paying any rent on that factory because that is a building that is owned by you. But still, that building is not free of cost. And another reason is that if you were not using that building for your own self, you could have given it to somebody else on rent. So that building could have earned something. So that is why it is also included as a cost or as an expense in the business organization. Another example can be if you are using your own money as an investment in the business organization, that means you're not paying any interest on that particular money because that is your own money. But still, you will be including that as an item of expense in your business organization. Next is out-of-pocket cost or explicit cost. That means where you have to pay money in cash to somebody else. That means for purchase of material, for wages. After that, we can take implicit cost for which no cash is paid or no cash outflow is being done from the company. A very good example of the same is depreciation. One more cost we can take here is marginal cost. That is very important for decision-making process, which means cost of producing one additional unit of output. It can be used for decision makings like make or buy, decide about pricing of the products, etc. So that was all for today. If you like today's video, please leave a comment. Subscribe to the channel. Keep learning, keep growing. Have a nice day.